And now for something completely different. An artist's kiss to awaken the city. I was speaking to Mary Jane yesterday and explaining to her what my talk was about, and I was explaining what word do I need, because an artist, you know, we are not the Van Goghs or the Rembrandts. We are the artists that are maybe uneducated, are very creative, are innovative, are homeless but with great ideas, are young people, skateboarders who build fantastic skate parks. There are utopians, mum on welfare. I consider these the artists in this story that awakens the city. Because it's a beautiful image, isn't it? Huh? The city is asleep and maybe she's lost her pulse. Nothing and no one can awaken her. And then comes the artist with a gift for the city. A kiss. A soft, delicious kiss on the mouth. A flowery kiss that brings back radiance, vitality and breath. A kiss is a very powerful metaphor, but I believe it takes two for a really good kiss. Yes. Based on a case, de Nederlandse Scheepsbouw- en Dokmaatschappij, the NDSM, I would like sort of to study the dynamics of a kiss between the city and the artist. Must the artist do all the kissing, or does the city kiss back too? And what is the nature of their kiss? The case study is about the NDSM, and I would like to focus on the early phase of the redevelopment and on its background, from an abandoned shipbuilding yard to a cultural hotspot on the waters by Het IJ. And I think 1 or 2 years ago, we were mentioned by the New York Financial Times to be one of the 5 coolest places in the world. That was not our purpose, though. Let me go back to the past. During the 80s, the shipbuilding activities stopped at the river IJ, or no, it's not the river, it's actually the water IJ. And IJ is like the water which is separating the busy south with the center and all the canals, and the sleepy north where a lot of industry was situated. And after the closure of these shipbuilding activities, many hangars and warehouses were empty. You know, they were not used at all. And like any metropolis in the world, first came the homeless and the prostitutes and the refugees, but very closely on the heels followed by the artists, the utopians, and young people that want to be creative or play freely outdoors. And this process is exactly what happened to the south banks, because this is the first south banks of the IJ, Het IJ. And it was, you can imagine, it was it was like celebrated for being the subculture of Amsterdam, the place for tolerance and innovations and cultural experiments, and we were internationally renowned as the Dutch avant-garde, and very, very popular. And all of these buildings I've been involved with, the Vrieshuis Amerika, Bakkers Wilhelmina, Graan Silo, and above you see the Nederlandse Dok- en Scheepsbouwmaatschappij, the NDSM. Yes. The rents were very high in the center, so it was very difficult for us to find affordable working space. So that's why we moved into these buildings. They were fantastic, large, and very raw places, perfect places for us to experiment and work, and their size, it was excellent. And all of this sort of off-the-grid activities were very much a sparkle for Amsterdam, as I mentioned before, being the Dutch avant-garde. And then came the 90s. the city of Amsterdam, together with banks and developers, decided that made up a plan to develop the whole water area into a Manhattan, or actually a Wall Street, Upon Het IJ. This should be the new heart of the financial sector, and everything was supposed to be torn down, and we should be. And this is actually quite a nice picture. It's just a small part, but it's massive skyscrapers they wanted to build then. And the funny thing is, a few years later, we didn't know that at the beginning, but the financial sector never chose for this area. It went to the Zuidas, another area, but still, we didn't know at that time. The group of people who had inhabited these old buildings, these old hangars, who had put these buildings into use, as a response to this consortium of developers called the Amsterdam Waterfront Finance Group, we thought we should also organize ourselves, and we set up the Guild of Industrial Buildings Upon Het IJ. And we looked at, and we did not only look at the role of the user in the redevelopment or reuse of these old buildings, we also studied other cities. And as the brochures for the Manhattan on the IJ were promoting sullen boulevards, we decided to go to rainy cities like Liverpool, Bristol, Odense, Copenhagen, and Stettin in Poland, which already in 1994 was the first time I heard the word business incubator from a very nice grassroots initiative along a river bank. And this is another building. And we set up this, apart from the setting up a guild, we wanted to, or actually with setting up the Guild of Industrial Buildings, and also together with two housing corporations, we sort of launched a manifest, or actually it's an alternative town planning strategy called the Stad als Casco, which is translated into English, the city as a framework. And the city is about the framework. It was, well, I'll come to that later, but we wrote like this manifest of bottom-up development in the city as a framework, together with housing corporations, very much promoting a sustainable model of development versus the commercial linear 10% growth development of what the Manhattan plans were. So we thought it should be and we should be part of this development too. And that was sort of the kiss we offered the city with our manifest. The city as a framework is actually a method I could say many things about, but it comes down to this. It's earning money in the building and not earning money on the building. And attention, please. There's earning money mentioned twice in this sentence, because we are not allergic to money. We pay our rent, we pay taxes, we pay the maintenance, but we just believe in other way of developing a city. And we believe in developing on basis that the costs are covered, and that the revenue is sort of like generated by the activity in the building and not by leasing or making profit of the building or selling the building for profits, etc. So it's very much organizing our own bank, our own little investment climate, that the money stays within the building, and we can continue like that. It's like a common owned building, sort of like that. And let me see. Yeah, it's also the old structure of these frameworks. It's also a perfect sort of basic or basis for flexible use. Hey, you can see these old buildings. They had lovely floors in between of these old warehouses. They were very well built, very strong and firm. And you could see that in time, the inside could change. It could be flexible. Sometimes you need big space, and eventually you need small space. So we also believed in flexible space, because the city is never changing. It's always developing, and within our statute that it should always be accessible for people with low income or problematic income, not earning with the building, not earning in it but not on it. We believe that this was a perfect model, and also we believed that we could build new houses as well. And well, at that time, this was like 1995, 1996, and now it's 2015. I also would like to add the human scale of these bottom-up grassroots initiatives, because from experience, it's all about how we own the city and manage to organize ourselves and buy our own buildings and develop it and design it and finance it ourselves. It's also about the human scale. You cannot do this with too many people, with too less people, and you cannot do it with too much people. So the NDSM is 250, 500 people. You really need to think about how to organize this. And I can refer to the community, but I will explain that later, the community. It's just that cows, if, more than 100 cows, they will not produce milk. So don't be efficient when you think you should put all the cows together. It will go bad. This is the book we wrote and the manifest. Nevertheless, despite our efforts, the city of Amsterdam closed down many warehouses and evicted over 1,000 artists. The artistic initiatives suffered. Several youth initiatives, like really famous European top-rated initiatives like the skate park, the third floor skate park in the Frieshuis Amerika, was closed down by the end of the decade. And this is the time when I made a plan to redevelop a part of the NDSM shipbuilding yard. And I started, armed with the city as a manifest under my arm, I actually started with skateboarders and 2 mums on welfare. And because we had great ideas on how to build a great skate park and how to build lovely restaurants. So we had this dream of building our own city, designing it ourselves, financing it ourselves, etc. And there was the demonstrations. I missed that part, but that's okay. But this is the evictions, the demonstrations. And this is the time when we went to the NDSM in the north, the sleepy north. And we made up a plan. We called ourselves Kinetic North, and we made like the Het IJ jump. The Het IJ is IG, it's the name of the water. So we called it I Jump to the North, and we made a plan to build a city ourselves there, because it was a place nobody wanted to be found dead. It was polluted, far away. Everybody thought we were crazy that we were going to the north of Amsterdam. But and you can also imagine that, we needed very much a place to experiment and innovate, because Amsterdam is becoming like consumer-orientated museum, not at all interesting place for the odd ones to excel or whatever. Anyway, in 1999, we managed to seduce the city to see the NDSM shipyard through the eyes of the artist. And the mayor at that time, he even cried out, "There's no culture without subculture." So that was a really good kiss back. Huh? But then came the first obstacles. The grute was polluted, the roof in the warehouse was nearly collapsing, and there were no working facilities. The total cost to make the warehouse clean, dry, and safe, 28 million. But we already had 450 enrollments, because you can imagine thousands of artists had been kicked out, and artists, the group, creative group, etc. And we calculated if we could build 28,000 square meter, we could generate all the costs needed for the renovation, for the 28 million. That is, if we could be the owner of the building and just go to a bank. And, you don't need any developer here. We can do it ourselves. However, ownership was not an option. The city was interested in demolishing the site in the near future and, continuing with this Manhattan story. So this is when the kiss became less passionate, you can imagine. Together with the local district, however, we made an operational plan, a plan of action to redevelop the NDSM shipyard for the next 10 years. We were given a lease for 10 years. Eventually, years later, after our plan, we were even allowed a 25-year lease because the neighborhood had sort of come to action and made sure that the wharf, the shipbuilding buildings on the wharf, were not going to be demolished, and they all became monuments now. So they'll stay forever, which is great. But anyway, we are still not allowed to own the building, but we can get a lease. So despite that the 28 million, and for the 10 years with our operational plan, we were 8 million short. So we could account 450 people for investing 20 million euro over a period of 10 years. And our deficits were in the first half years maybe 500,000, but our upbringings in 10 years it was a few 100,000 euros in the plus. So it was a very good business model. The first buildings, what we actually did, we sort of designed it ourselves, and the first 6, we sort of planned 10 building projects in the warehouse, because I remember I was talking about the critical mass, the human scale of a project. This is such a big building, it's 20,000 square meters. We had to divide it in several clusters or several buildings. So we planned 6 buildings within one warehouse, and this 6 buildings was also the starting of our organization with 6 sort of legal bodies, and they could become a cooperative of owners, etc. Owners, we are investing renters and not owners, but anyway. So these are and when we started, we had all these plans, our feasibility was okay, the operational plan, everybody was happy, we were allowed the contract, and then to the shock of everybody, we threw all the plans away, because it's bottom up. So it's first the people, and then the design, and then the plan. So when it was still a ruin, we moved in with the first 70 artists, and we just put crayons on the floor, and everybody demarcated their space there, and everybody who was in the building had to pay from the spot off, right away, because we asked for commitment. If you want to be part of this development together, you should be paying or putting a little bit money, so we could start a little organization and a bank account number, etc. So this is what was very important. Then we came up with our own design. And here you can see how we, with the crayons in first, and we had workshops, and we did all this with a philosopher and an architect, etc., and a city planner. We invited him to, but we did design it ourselves. And these are the 6 building projects, which we. This is the skate park. Before it was an official skate park, it just started on the ground to get inspired. You can see the big hall. And this is the first project which was opened. Unfortunately, it's not a good project because it's very difficult to photograph the east wing. Or it's a really good project, but it's difficult to photograph. This is like the east wing of the warehouse, where the set dressers are, the street theater, the puppetry, and the circus companies are. Here is the west wing. That's where the skate park, the top-rated Amsterdam skate park, built their own skate park there. This is the Art City. This is the third project. Here you can see the new framework that we built in. So we designed a city plan, and we built a framework. We cleaned the ground, etc., and we built a framework. And here you can see how every little person, small-scale business, artist, etc., built their own studio within the framework. This is their investment. The framework was a collective investment. It's not very expensive. But within, you can see that everybody built their own studio space and all their own money, and together with the neighbors, you did the walls, separating it. And this is the Art City, we call it. We give them names. This is the free zone. This is for the more heavy artists. It's on the right side, like the boat workers. We did not want to evict the boat workers because we believe bottom-up development, sustainable development, you start from what's already there. It also has a historical background. So we respect that. So this is the free zone, people that didn't want to be part of a community, they wanted to be a little bit individual, they needed big spaces, new big openings to the streets. So this is how they, and it was demand driven, so we applied. And this is the restaurant by the mum on welfare. She had specialized herself in straw bale building, And she was building orphanages in South Africa and Romania. And she had this fantastic idea of building her own restaurant with recycled materials. And now this is one of the most popular restaurants in Amsterdam. Actually, it's the top 25 restaurants in Amsterdam. And she's not unemployed, and she's giving work to lots and lots of people, young people, creative people as well. And the vision, yeah, like I said, the division of these clusters is what's the starting point of the organizational structure. And like I said, you know, we wanted to be a co-op of 6 owners. And eventually the idea was that the organization, Kinetic North, was a temporary organization, would hand over the organizing, you know, hand over all the organizing tasks, even if it was our own foundation, but it would hand it over to the people that had invested and were renting to the clusters themselves. Unfortunately, this is how, yeah, it's from my office. Unfortunately, as for completing our plans, we found out, to our surprise, we were lying in bed with the wrong partner. Yes, we had clearly been seduced because of our good looks and not from who we were on the inside. Yes, the kiss was over. After 6 of the 10 planned projects, after these projects you just saw, the construction was put to a halt by the city, the owner of the building, and commercial development is now back on the menu again. And you're going to listen to Saskia Sasser tomorrow, because she's also explaining about this threat that we are all facing very soon. And actually, yeah, well, the new skate park has again been evicted, because it has to make place for more commercial, high finance renters. And yeah, well, you can see now our terrain is becoming a festival site. There's this big criticism now that these cities are becoming festivalized. I don't know the English word, but that's a big threat. Very commercial. Because besides our good looks, we have an inner life. As artists, we want to awaken the city with a kiss that will bring us closer to our goals of sustainability. And sustainability, I've heard this word a lot, and I'm over my time, so I'll wrap it up very quick. But sustainability, I believe it should follow 4 paths. 1, it's circular, so it's economic sustainable. And the second, it's carried by the community and not by institutions or by an individual. It's social sustainable. 3, it's founded by all the involved partners. So we have like administrative governance sustainability. And with respect for the surroundings and its environment, it's technical sustainability. And the funny thing is that we are accused of not being commercial, but we just started our own energy company with our new neighbors, our new commercial neighbors, and we are now already within 1 year the first in the top 10 of energy companies in the Netherlands. We have 400 companies on the whole terrain with all sorts of different partners, and we are now setting up our own windmill next year, which will generate 1/3 of our electricity needs. And that's just bottom up with our new neighbors. So we're not at all worried about our new commercial neighbors being part of it or being user of frameworks as well. But we believe it should be a circular economic system. It should be a sustainable development. And because also I think sustainability has a higher priority than commerce. Because with commerce, we break things down. And Saskia Sasser was invited on the 18th of May in Amsterdam by the city to comment on the state of the city. And she was also warning about the destruction going on by profit-seeking development and the economic cleansing of the lower income that comes afterwards. So, while judging us by our looks, the city thinks it has found itself a trophy wife, which and which will help to promote the city, the hip city, you know, free and of no charge. And as we swing, I just explained it, the pendulum has swung back again to the linear logic of maximizing profits, and also regarding all non-profit initiatives as an expense or something in need of funding. This return to business as usual by the city throws a spanner in the works. And you can imagine, when the city, actually what's his function, the vice deputy of the city planning of Amsterdam accused us of not being commercial. Well, that really hurts, and it's not true. It's really not true. We can paddle our own canoe in the water, but we are just not trading companies seeking for profits. We are part of a useful manufacturing economy, just like the local bicycle shop, for example. So, oh, cities, wake up. And so, dear people, I'm wrapping up. I've seen you there. I took my time, didn't I? Yes. Peter said, you should watch your time, because last time it was 14 minutes, but now it's 25, sorry. So, dear people, keep on kissing. No, I'm not ready. No. But be aware of who is kissing back and how this kiss tastes. Maybe you are still living in a world of dreams and illusions that someone can help you out of. So bring on the prince, I would say. But remember, we are talking about the kiss that brings you back to life. There's also another kiss, which is called the kiss of death. So the artists kissing the city should really watch out and avoid this kiss.
There's a plane waiting for us to take us to Miami in an hour. All right. Don't make a big thing about it. I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart. You broke my heart.
That's finished.